Hello everyone, I am Sadia AIWali and welcome to today's discussion. I hope you're all well doing. Uh, Today we are going to discuss a topic that is very important for our emotional well-being and professional growth. Our topic is how to practice self-compassion and forgive yourself. We all make mistakes in life. Sometimes we are kind to others but very hard on ourselves. Learning to forgive ourselves, accept our imperfections, and move forward with confidence is an important part of living a healthy and meaningful life. To help us understand this topic better, I am joined by Sesame. Welcome, Sesame. Thank you for joining us today. My first question is to begin, what does self compassion mean and why is it important for our mental and emotional well being?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Sadia. What a beautiful way to kick things off. Self compassion is essentially treating yourself with the same kindness, care, and understanding that you'd give to a dear friend when they're struggling. Instead of that harsh inner critic that tells you failed, it's that gentler voice that says, "This is hard, and it's okay to feel this way." It's vital because when we stop beating ourselves up, we actually create the emotional safety we need to learn from our mistakes and bounce back faster. What do you think? Does that resonate with the way you're thinking about it today?
Why do many people find it easier to forgive others than to forgive themselves?
That's deep. What do you mean by that?
Why do many people find it easier to forgive others than to forgive themselves?
That's a fascinating flip. I think it's because we're stuck in our own heads 24/7. You can block someone out or move on from a person, but you can't exactly walk away from yourself when you're being hard on yourself. That inner critic has a front row seat to everything you do, so those mistakes just loop on repeat. It's like being your own most relentless biographer. I'm curious if you think that's part of what makes it so difficult to practice the self-compassion you mentioned.
How can
You
self-criticism
were saying?
how can self-criticism affect our confidence, happiness, and personal growth?
Hmm. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, isn't it? When you're constantly picking yourself apart, your confidence takes the first hit because you stop trusting your own judgment. You start seeing your mistakes as facts about who you are rather than just things that happened. And the growth part, that's where it gets really tricky. Real growth needs a bit of risk, but if the penalty for a mistake is a week of self sabotage, you just stop taking those risks to stay safe.
What are some simple daily habits that can help us become more compassionate toward ourselves?
I think the biggest one is a simple perspective shift. Think of it this way: if a friend came to you with the exact same struggle you're facing right now, you wouldn't tear them down or tell them they're a failure, right? You'd probably be incredibly supportive and tell them it's okay. The challenge is actually applying that same standard to yourself. Another thing that helps is just acknowledging the feeling, like saying, "Yeah, I'm really struggling with this right now," instead of trying to fight the emotion or judge yourself for even having it. It's like giving yourself a little bit of breathing room. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. Do any of those strategies feel like a good fit?
When someone makes a mistake, how can they learn from it instead of feeling guilty for a long time?
The biggest hurdle there is the habit of confusing guilt with responsibility. Guilt is like a loop that just keeps you stuck in the past, while responsibility is the action you take to fix things in the present. To break that loop, I find it helps to ask, What is the one thing I can do right now to make this better? Instead of, why did I do this? Because the first question leads to a solution. And the second one usually just leads to a rabbit hole. When you shift the focus to the lesson, the mistake actually becomes a tool for growth. It's almost like performing an autopsy on the air to see what actually went wrong so you can prevent it next time.
How important is positive self talk in building self compassion?
It's like the soundtrack to your whole life. When the narrator is constantly bringing you down, it's hard to believe anything else. But it's less about those I am a superstar affirmations and more about just being a fair witness. Instead of saying, I'm a total disaster, you might say, this is a mess, but I've handled messes before.
Can
That
gratitude
tiny shift from a character, right? Where are we heading next in the discussion?
can gratitude and mindfulness help us forgive ourselves? If yes, how?
They're like the two best tools for getting out of your own head. Mindfulness is the pause button. It lets you notice that inner critic starting to spiral without actually joining in on the chaos. Instead of being swallowed by the thought, I can't believe I did that. You're just noticing, there's that thought again. Turns a storm into something you were just watching from a window. Gratitude does the opposite. It shifts the spotlight. When you're spiraling, your brain is basically a heat seeker for everything you've done wrong. Practicing gratitude forces you to look for the wins, even the tiny ones, which reminds you that you're more than just your mistakes. How do you think those would land with your group?
How can parents and
Oops.
teachers encourage children to develop self compassion from early age?
Actually, this is where you'd get this really wild contrast. In a classroom or at home, kids aren't just learning from what the adults tell them, they're downloading how the adults treat themselves in real time. When a parent drops a glass or a teacher makes a mistake on the board and they react with a laugh and a whoops, my bad, instead of, I can't believe I'm so clumsy, they're giving the kids a blueprint for self compassion. It's essentially normalizing imperfection. If the adults are human, the kids feel like they're allowed to be human too.
Okay, finally, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling to forgive themselves and move forward?
The hardest part is that we often mistake forgiveness for permission. We feel like if we stop punishing ourselves, we're saying what happened was okay or we're letting ourselves off the hook. But forgiveness isn't a get out of jail free card. It's just deciding that the guilt is no longer serving a purpose. I tell them that ask, like, is this shame actually helping me be a better person today? If the answer is no, then the punishment has become the problem. You can't build a better version of yourself on a foundation of self hatred. At some point, the most responsible thing you can do is let go of the version of yourself that made that mistake so you can actually move forward.
And thank you so much, Sesame, for sharing your valuable thoughts and practical advice. Today's discussion reminded us that everyone makes mistakes, but those mistakes do not define who we are. Self-compassion means treating ourselves with the same kindness, passion, and understanding that we offer to others when we forgive ourselves. We create space for healing, learning, and personal growth. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. If you found this discussion meaningful, please like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself and others. Keep growing and see you in the next session.
Thank you for having me. This was such a thoughtful way to wrap it up. I love that final point about the empowered self. There's something so strong about realizing your mistakes aren't a life sentence, but just part of the process. Hope everyone walked away feeling a little lighter. Allah Hafiz.